todo el mundo hablando del 3 y Atlas, todo el mundo hablando de los artículos, de los informes de Avi Loeb, al que una vez más tenemos en esta casa, un medio español, sí, Negocios Televisión, entrevistando a Avi Loeb. Avi, thanks for being here in Negocios TV. It's a pleasure having you here again. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Avi, I would like to ask you about your last interview. You said that the 3I Atlas doesn't appear to be an ordinary comet. Could you explain it in detail, please?
Yeah, the most interesting information is from the last few days. It passed near the sun on October 29th, and there seem to be 7 jets coming out of it, according to the latest images. And these jets propagate a distance of up to a few million kilometers. And that means that they were able to penetrate through the solar wind, because some of them are going towards the sun. And I calculated that the amount of mass carried by these jets is 5 billion tons. It's a lot of mass. And that's in case this object is natural, in which case the jets are produced by pockets of ice, either carbon dioxide ice or water ice. But in that case, in order to get so much mass coming out, the area needs to be very large, of an object bigger than 20 kilometers in diameter. And that is difficult to accommodate with early data that we had on 3I Atlas. So one way to get a large area is if the object broke up into pieces, so that the area is much bigger when you sum up over all the pieces. So in the case of a natural object, maybe it disintegrated. Maybe there were some fireworks next to the sun a week ago, and we will find out very soon, because these fragments will get separated by the tidal gravitational field of the sun. So the sun acts gravitationally differently on the different fragments, and they will separate. However, if it's a technological object, it could be that the jets are used for propulsion, that these are thrusters. And we know that technological jets have a speed, usually of the gas that comes out of them, that is much larger than expected for a natural comet, by 1 to 2 orders of magnitude for human-made technologies. And if we have some alien technologies here, it could be even larger. So in that case, the speed of the jets would be much larger than expected, and it will carry much less mass. The fuel has to be a small fraction of the mass of the spacecraft. So there is a clear test in the coming weeks for us to study those jets, figure out their speed, composition, the mass that they carry, and from that we will learn whether it's a natural comet or something technological. Originally, the anomalies of 3I Atlas were that it was very big already. We knew that from the start, 1 million times more massive than the first interstellar object, and that was surprising. Why are we getting such a big delivery in the third object? We should have obtained such a big object maybe once per 10,000 years. But another anomaly was the trajectory, which was aligned with the orbital plane of the planets around the sun. And we will find the answer to the fundamental question: is it technological? Was this trajectory designed by some intelligence? Or is it a natural object that happens to be very rare and unusual relative to the rocks that we would have expected? And the answer will come in the coming weeks. It will get closest to Earth on December 19th. And that's just 6 days before Christmas. And my hope is that it will not deliver any unwanted gifts to us on Earth for the holidays.
Well, Avi, waiting for this 19th of December, I would like to ask you about some critics. There are some people saying that the extraterrestrial technology hypothesis is so premature. What is your argument for these people?
Well, we need to decide whether it's natural or technological based on the data. And we just had circumstantial evidence until now, and we need to wait for the coming weeks. I am not saying it's one or the other. It's most likely a natural comet, but we need to check to make sure. because otherwise it could be some black swan event that is unlikely, but nevertheless surprising. And you shouldn't be surprised hearing comet experts say that it must be a comet, because just like AI systems that are saying things based on the training data sets, the same is true about comet experts. They were trained on data sets that involve only comets. So whatever they see in the sky, they will say it's a comet. Even suppose there is a spacecraft or an object that maneuvers without any cometary tail, they would argue it's a dark comet. In other words, a comet where you don't see the gas and dust around it. That's what they said about Oumuamua, which exhibited a non-gravitational acceleration. This was the first interstellar object discovered back in 2017, and the comet experts said it's still a comet, it's a dark comet, even though we don't see the signatures of a comet, which is gas and dust around it. So the point is, they are just like AI systems. They are trained on comets, and they will say anything in the sky is comets, including spacecraft could be called dark comets because you don't see a cometary tail, and they can maneuver and have non-gravitational acceleration. So my point is that we should just be guided by curiosity and the humility to learn what this object is, rather than the arrogance of expertise.
Well, Avi, waiting for more answers, I would like to ask you about some of your last reports in Medium. You are becoming very famous, Avi. Did asteroid 3I Atlas just disintegrate near the Sun? Is this true?
Sorry, what? Can you repeat?
Yeah, the 3I Atlas just disintegrate near the Sun.
Oh.
Is true these reports? Are true these reports?
I haven't seen, where did you get that information?
Some pages, some media talking about this, that the 3I Atlas pass very near of the Sun and it disintegrate. Yeah.
Well, that's potentially based on what I said before, where I said that if it's a natural comet, then the amount of mass loss that is required to power the jets that we saw coming out implies a very large surface area, potentially, of fragments. But this is just in case it is a natural comet. We haven't seen in any image multiple fragments as of yet, as far as I know, unless something new was discovered today. I have to check. But until today, we have not seen multiple components, fragments, in the images of 3I Atlas.
Avi, we know that 3I Atlas has sent its first signal to the Earth. What does this discovery mean for the scientific community?
Well, if we receive a technological signal in the form of a radio signal, or we see some artificial lights, or we see the heat of an engine that is providing much more power than expected from sunlight impinging on the surface of an object, then we would know that we're dealing with a technological civilization that is far more advanced than we are, because the biggest rocket that we produced is Starship, which is smaller than 100 meters, smaller than a football field. This object is the size of a city, and we don't have the technologies as of now to launch such a big thing to space, especially not interstellar space. So we will have a long learning experience trying to figure out what this is. But of course, if it happens to be a natural object, it's still surprising that it's so big. We will have to understand what are the astrophysical factors that produced this kind of a big object made mostly of carbon dioxide, if it is natural. And moreover, why was it sent in the plane of the planets around the Sun? Perhaps there is some astrophysical reason for that. But we have to explain those anomalies. We can't just say it's a comet and that's it, case closed. We need to figure out why it has these unusual properties, because we must be missing something.
We are missing something, and we are waiting for the for the NASA as the government shutdown ends? Do you expect NASA could release these images of the Three Atlas? We know you are pressuring about this. You are pressing.
We were, thanks to Representative Ana Paulina Luna, there was a letter sent from Congress to NASA asking for the images that were taken by the high-rise camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter on October 3rd, when Three Atlas came within 29 million kilometers from Mars. And these are the highest resolution images we have in principle, with 30 kilometers per pixel resolution. However, because of the government shutdown in the US, these images were not released yet for bureaucratic reasons. They exist on the computers of some people, and those people are not necessarily government employees. However, there is some bureaucratic reason within NASA that during the shutdown, they're not allowed to release it. Any image related to Three Atlas must be approved. And that's different from other images taken by the high-rise camera that were released even today. There is a new image released by the same camera, but things related to Three Atlas have to be approved by the headquarters of NASA, which was closed because of the shutdown. So my hope is that the shutdown will end within a day or so, and then after that, shortly after that, we'll have access to those images and see what they mean. I mean, they were taken 40 days ago, so that's a long time. It's an unwanted delay for science, because we want to get as much information as we have on this object, because it will affect future observations that we make. But gladly, the shutdown is about to end, so we will get a resolution to this saga.
Waiting for this resolution, Avi, what is the NASA hiding, and do you understand that some people doesn't trust the NASA or wherever that was published about these Three Atlas in the future? If they say there is a comment, do you understand that people doesn't trust them?
Yeah, I'm not sure why they do two things. One, have a clear opinion telling the public what this object is, when the public wants to see the data, that whatever it says, the public is curious. And, you know, science is work in progress. It's not constructed on bold statements by bureaucrats or administrators. The other thing is these images were blocked by bureaucracy and the politics of the day. And again, that should not happen, because science should be given priority over bureaucracy. If the images exist, someone within NASA could have said, for the benefit of science, let's share them with scientists. They don't need to go out to the news media necessarily. They can just share it to the scientific community. And that doesn't involve much work. It doesn't involve money, because we're talking about data that exists on computers, and you just share it publicly on a website so that scientists can use it. That's basically what I'm saying. And unfortunately, in big organizations, there is often a lot of bureaucracy that controls and dominates over scientific considerations. And I wish that someone up there in the administration of NASA would have decided to, for the benefit of science, to release that data.
Waiting for the NASA, Avi, I would like to ask you about Michio Kaku. He's talking about the Three Atlas. He's talking about you. What is your answer for Michio Kaku?
Yeah, so Michio Kaku, including as well Brian Cox or Neil deGrasse Tyson, these are people who are commentators. They talk about science from the point of view of someone from the outside looking at it, that knows the details, but they are not practitioners of science. It's the difference between, let's say, soccer players on the field and commentators on the bench that are talking about the game. And of course, the one difference between soccer players on the field and commentators is that only the soccer players can score a goal. The commentators can say whatever they want, but they are not on the field. And so Michio Kaku is just talking about this object. He didn't write a scientific paper about it. And the same is true for Brian Cox or Neil deGrasse Tyson. They are just commentators. I'm not sure when they wrote the last scientific paper, but definitely they haven't published anything about 3i Atlas. I'm doing the scientific work with students, postdocs, trying to figure out what the data suggests, and I'm engaged in the actual inquiry. And the public is very curious because it's just like a detective story. And suppose there is a detective on the scene collecting clues and trying to interpret clues, but then there is someone looking at the detective and making statements. Who would you rather follow? The person who makes statements from a distance about what the detective is doing? Or would you rather follow the detective as the clues are coming along, trying to figure out what is going on? I mean, it's obvious, and that's why the public is so excited about 3i Atlas, because it shows how scientific work is done. It's not done by making statements. It's not done by bureaucrats, not by commentators. It's done by people who collect the clues, collect the evidence, and then make sense out of them. And of course, when we don't have enough clues, there could be difference of opinions. That should be allowed. Science should not block all opinions except for one, which is the tendency of experts, because they claim we know the answer. But the way science is done is to have a sense of humility and say, okay, let's imagine two possibilities, and one of them is less likely. Okay, but we will collect enough data so that we will show that the second possibility, which we regard as unlikely, is incorrect. And then if the data shows something else, you say, okay, I was wrong, and you learn something new. So that's the way science is done. It's a learning experience. It's work in progress. And all these commentators and bureaucrats who are trying to put a face to the public in which they know what it is and they are the ones to tell the public what it is, that's not the right approach to doing science.
The last question, Avi, you are becoming famous. I was talking about your reports in Medium. How are you coping with the fame?
It doesn't change anything for me. I was always like that. I would always. It's just that now the subject is of interest to the public. It's not about me. It's about 3i Atlas, and I still wash the dishes at home every day. And in fact, the dishwasher just broke at my home, so now I have to do it by hand until we get a new dishwasher. So yesterday I called the company to order a replacement to the dishwasher. And the person on the other side of the phone call, I've never spoken with this person, I don't know who he is, but he recognized my voice. And he said, are you Avi Loeb? And I said, yes. And he said, I recognize you because I follow everything you say on television, on podcasts. So he knew me just by my voice. And then he asked me after that, he said, it's a great honor. What is the status of 3i Atlas? Before I made my order, he was very curious. So it just shows how interested the public is, how widespread is that interest, and how incredible is this opportunity to get the public engaged and interested in science. I just got an email an hour ago from a mother, a professional, who said that my daughter now wants to be a scientist, and she was talking with me about it and wants to move and pursue an academic career. And every story like that, and this is I heard a lot of those, is giving me the reward that I really want. It's not that my name is recognized. It's the fact that I can excite, inspire young kids and also adults to appreciate the value of science, because that's the only way for us to learn new things, by searching evidence and not by believing stories that bureaucrats and commentators tell us.
Well, Avi, congratulations once again for your success. Thanks for being here with us in Negocios TV. It's a pleasure having you here and waiting for you again to talk about this 3i Atlas. Thanks for being with us again, Avi. It's a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.